Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got full rockin' my gun out there.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Oh, this hard goddamn work being this good.
One more again, see what I take on your front set, I swear.
You ain't my daddy, are you?
There's gonna be consequences and repercussions.
What time is it?
Game time proof.
Okay, welcome again to the Don't Be Blasé podcast. We're coming to you live from the House of Pain, otherwise known as Snap Fitness, the Adelaide CBD. I'm your host, B. Caruana, and today we are joined by nobody. It's a solo show. Steve's had the week off, but we're going to get through it anyway. Before we get started, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Larry and Lad. Go see the boys in Region Arcade and get yourself an awesome coffee and listen to some pretty sweet tunes. But for now, on with the show. Now, this show is going to be a solo show. You have to listen to my voice for the next 20-odd minutes. It's going to be a little bit shorter than what we normally do because, let's be honest, if me and Steve don't get caught on a tangent and yelling at each other, it's really not much to talk about. But one thing we are going to go on with is round 8 of the AFL football season is in the books. Now, we haven't really discussed a lot of football this year because, let's be honest, my Blues have been terrible. But this week, we've been able to have this moment, which I've been waiting for a long time. See, now we don't have lawn talk this week because, let's be honest, I live in an apartment, don't have a lawn. And people have enjoyed the music. So we're going to have a little music section, and it's going to start a little bit like this. Oh, have you ever heard anything more magnificent in your life? Oh.
We are the Navy Blues. We are the old
I've been waiting 8 weeks to play this, folks. I haven't had a chance to sing this. Well over It's one of the great songs in AFL. And this is just going out to our listener, Lyle. I know you're a huge fan, mate. Lyle has lost a bet with me, and he really has to enjoy this because, let's be honest, the Blues don't get many wins. We don't get a chance to sing this very often. And this is just a magical moment for them. So thank you for indulging me in that moment there, guys. But that's all we're going to have for as far as musical cues this week. But yeah, let's discuss round 8 of the AFL season. It was really exciting because as we were leading into this week, we're having several discussions with friends about how disappointing this season has been. There hasn't been any real close games outside of maybe the Easter Monday game between Hawthorn and Geelong. And there hasn't been any great marks or, real strong goal of the year contenders. It's been a bit of a lackluster season. There's Richmond up the top, but they don't really look that convincing. And then you can pretty much throw a blanket on every other team in the league, with the exception of obviously my Blues and Brisbane Lions and St Kilda, which are, hot garbage at the moment. But this weekend provided the goods. In Friday night we had Hawthorn and Sydney, which was, for all intents and purposes, I thought Hawthorn was going to take that one running away because of played in Melbourne and Sydney are missing a few players. And they came out and made the upset win, which was really exciting to see. It was a nice close games, a back and forth contest, which is all you really want from a game of AFL football. And that led into what I'm now dubbing Super Saturday. So not on top of Carlton, once again, I'm mentioning it again, Carlton getting the win over hated rivals Essendon. That's right, Carlton beat Essendon. Just let that one sink in, Lyle. We also got to have one of the great moments on the South Australian football calendar. We had the Showdown. Now, for anyone that's listening interstate, overseas, the Showdown is between Adelaide, the Adelaide Crows, and the Port Adelaide Power. And it's quite the rivalry here. The Crows are the established team. They're sort of the evil empire, as it would be. The Lakers to the Ports Clippers, the Yankees to their Mets. It's one of those big rivalries. It's the team that was established first has the biggest supporter base against the somewhat smaller club that comes from a bit more local roots. And so there's always a lot of passion in these games. And this one was no different. It was very, very exciting. Now, I luckily had seats to go to the game. There was 51,000 in attendance, and it was loud throughout. The game, for the most part, the first half, bit slow going. Not a whole lot on offer. Nothing too exciting. Crows were, establishing their dominance. I'll be honest with you, they are the better team. But Port made a rally in the third quarter. Now, it was a Port home game, so of the 51,000, at least 40 odd were were Port fans. So they did get real loud coming into the third quarter and sparking a comeback. Come back from 4 goals down to hit the lead. And they carried that lead throughout most of the fourth quarter. Now, this is when things got good. There was about 5 minutes to go. Port had about a 3-goal lead, but it never felt comfortable. And, a goal in footy, 6 points. They had a 17-point lead, so just under 3 goals. And then within a 3-minute period, it was I think it was a goal by Eddie Betts, and then a goal by the captain, Taylor Walker, who I cannot stand. He's like the biggest piece of shit in the AFL, but that's a different story for a different time. And then Mitch McGovern came through, took a mark, kicks a goal with 42 seconds remaining to put the Crows up by a point. Now, where I sit in the Port members section, we're directly in front of the corporate boxes. Now, the corporate boxes were full on this evening of Adelaide Crows fans. So, as McGovern's kicked that goal, all I can hear from behind, I can just see all the seats of Port fans in front of me. Everyone's sitting down. Behind me, you can just hear, ecstasy and elation and everyone jumping up and down and cheering for the Crows. They think they've snatched this one, which was quite rightfully their game, but, they thought they'd snatched it right at the death. Now, with 42 seconds to go, some magic happened, and we might chuck the clip up on the Facebook. But, the ball's gone forward, and unfortunately, 2 Crows players, one of them being Mitch McGovern, have run into each other in one of the most sickening collisions I've seen live in person at a football game that I can actually remember. And the ball's bounced to Stevie Motlop, who, as many of the Port fans had mentioned throughout the game, had done less than fuck all. But luckily, this is the way things go in sports. Every now and then, it's the guy you least expect that pops up and has the magic moment. So he runs around a couple of Crows defenders and slots a goal with about 20 seconds to go, puts Port back up by 5, and they win the showdown. Now, this was a very exciting time. Obviously, the crowd going nuts. And any time that a Crows fan is upset is a good day for me. I know Steve will be a little bit upset over the weekend. This is why I'm bringing it up while he's not here, because he's probably going to be pretty bitter. But that's the good thing about sports. We can argue it, we can debate it. Now, I got into a debate the other day with a friend of mine, Lockie, who has a theory on the AFL. He thinks that they need to cut down the amount of Victorian teams that are still in the league. And I think this is, because it still stemmed from the VFL, had 10 teams, whatever, and it moved into the AFL. So it went from Victorian Football League to the Australian Football League, and the expansion happened. So every state now has 2 teams, and Melbourne still has 10. Now, he thinks they need to cut that down. Now, I agree in theory, but this SOB decided of his teams from Victoria that needed the cut, he swung the axe at Carlton. Now, we know that I'm a proud Carlton man, and this sort of BS and jive talk, that's right, I said jive talk, is not going to stand. So we're going to start my plan to make Carlton great again. I might even have to get some blue hats made with a similar font to the MAGA hats, but we are going to make Carlton great again, and it's going to start with one man. That man is Tom Lynch. Now, not Tom Lynch that is Steve's favourite player for the Adelaide Crows, not the second best Tom Lynch in the AFL. I'm talking Tom Lynch from the Gold Coast Suns, the big power forward up front from the Suns. We need Tom Lynch back down in Victoria. We need to get him to Carlton. We need him in the navy blue because, let's be honest, everyone looks better in navy blue. So what we need to do is we need to get Tom Lynch down. We need to throw a whole ton of money at him. The rumour is he's asking around $1.4 million a year for a contract. He's the kind of guy that's worth it. If he's going to change a franchise, you can throw that sort of money at someone. I mean, the Dogs threw $1 million at Tom Boyd. Now, let's be honest. He hasn't done a whole lot since he went to the Bulldogs, but he did play the best game he's ever played in his entire life in the AFL Grand Final and won them their first flag since the 60s. So, I don't know how you'd like to spend $1 million a year, but if that's going to get you a flag, I'm pretty sure most teams will take that punt, in like a flag for your supporters and think it's almost essentially priceless. There's been teams that have rorted salary caps in order to get players to win these sorts of things, and my team is no exception to that. But it's one of those things where if we can throw that sort of money at a guy like that, you put him up front, we've already drafted a few defenders, we can even give him Chris Judd's old job at Visiboard. He can be an ambassador, sit behind the same desk for 2 hours a week and get the kickbacks from that. But we need Tom Lynch down at Carlton. That's where I'm standing there. I'm putting my foot down. We need him there. So if you've got any other suggestions for how we're going to make Carlton great again, feel free to send them through. If you've got any decisions for how Carlton should be kicked out of the AFL or we should just keep them shit, you can keep them to yourself. This is why no one listens to your podcast. We're going to segue from there, guys. We're going to move away from the AFL. Like I said, only short show today. We're going to move to our wonderful world of the NBA. And this is really handy talking about NBA by myself because I don't have Steve's horrible opinion clouding your judgment. Now, there's an exciting development came out today from ESPN and Netflix. There is going to be a new 10-part miniseries, like documentary style, on the great man Michael Jordan. Now, I've heard it's going to be around 10 hours. Now, this is exciting. It's the guy that directed the Fab Five and the Andre the Giant documentaries. So it's going to be an interesting watch. Now, I've gotten to several arguments online already about this. This is the wonder of the world and how fast everything moves. Now, I just feel with every good documentary, you've got to show the highlights, obviously, but you've also got to show the downside. Now, see, my big concern is with this Michael Jordan documentary, it's going to be all, oh, he was the greatest, he's the best, everyone all hail the king. Now, that's what his little videos were for. Anyone from the 90s, like myself, like Nick that listens, and Brett, you will remember the Michael Jordan's Playground and, all those sorts of bullshit clips. That's what that's for. If you want to pump somebody up and, give them their props, that's what you have your own little VHS for. But when it comes to a serious documentary, it needs to tackle both sides. And if this documentary is really, truly going to be what it needs to be, and going to be something really, really special, something a la the Made in America O.J. Simpson documentary, it does need to tackle the scumbag personality of Michael Jordan. Now, I'm not going to take away any of his achievements as a basketball player. He is one of the best. Some say he's the best. But I never liked him, but it's one of those things, like, I can't take away his abilities as a player. And I'm sure they're going to tackle the flu game and, scoring 63 against the Celtics, and that's great. But they need to tackle the gambling, and they need to get to the bottom and give an honest opinion on the quote-unquote retirement to go play baseball, which is otherwise known as the gambling suspension. And if it doesn't tackle these sorts of things, then I'm not going to be able to really buy it. I mean, we've got enough, not propaganda, but we've got enough material out there about how great the man is. And like I said, you can't deny how good he is as a player and as a businessman. Now, as a GM of a basketball team and as a teammate, it turns out he's not that great. So they need to go from both sides. If they're just going to give him all the self-inflation and just pump up his tires, this thing's going to be a complete waste of time. And, I know Steve's going to have a lot to chat about, and we'll probably discuss this on next week's show, get a bit more in depth into it. But, I am looking forward to it. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to watch it because, I've even sat through and watched, Steve's got the DVD I borrowed of him of the Jordan Dynasty, and it shows the closeout game for all 6 championships. Now, I have actually sat through and watched all 6 games. And every time, knowing that he wins, I'm still cheering for the other team. That's just me. I'm always supporting the underdog. It's one of those things, if I turn on any sport in the world, if there's a game happening and I don't even know who the teams are or I'm impartial, I will just naturally start rooting for the team that's behind. I just love a comeback. I love a Cinderella story. I'm not a front runner. I'm not a downhill skier. I'm not like a majority of the people that just like the, whatever the popular opinion is, we get on that. Whatever's the best, we get on that. No, I like a bit of, I like my scumbags. I like a bit of grit. I like, someone overcoming the odds. That's more mine. Rather than the people that are just born into greatness and achieve great things, I'd rather watch the up and under story. And, I want to see that from the Michael Jordan documentary. I want to see the grit and all the things he went through. The more respect I've had for Michael Jordan is watching the Bad Boys documentary about the Detroit Pistons. Watching, how they, let's be honest, they brutalized him coming, down the lane. And in those games, they were actually trying to, mug him every time down the court. And it showed, and it showed him training, weight training the offseason to try to combat it. And that's where I had a bit of credit for Michael Jordan. It's just, and also the flu game. I can't discount the flu game. That thing is, if you have the opportunity to go watch that back, it's one of the great achievements in sports. And it's, like I said, as much as I hate the guy, it is really, really impressive to watch. To watch a guy that's you can just see how sick he is. And I also love the backstory of that one too, which is apparently it wasn't just the flu, it was a local pizza place in Utah poisoning his pizza and giving him some sort of gastro, which, once again, I love any sort of underhanded scumbag tactic, so I'm all for that. So I just hope this documentary tackles more than just he was really good at basketball and sold a lot of shoes. It needs to really get gritty. Now, speaking of gritty, we've just had this is recorded Wednesday, coming out Wednesday, all Wednesday things involved are going to be on it. The NBA draft lottery has just concluded, and it's going to be who's going to pick, obviously, in this upcoming draft, which is going to be a pretty stacked draft. A lot of good college players coming through and a couple of internationals. And I'm just going to bring up, the number one pick's going to Phoenix. Now, they need it because they're terrible and have been terrible probably since Steve Nash was there. But the one that really kills me, the New York Knicks are picking 9th. Now, you need to get a pick in the top 5 in order to turn your franchise around. And they did that with Kristaps. He was like the 4th pick, and Kristaps is the golden god and the unicorn. And we love Kristaps. But he's also coming back off a full knee recon. And for a 7'3" guy, let's be honest, he's not going to come back in a hurry. So there is rumors that he's going to miss the entire next season as well. So they needed someone this year who was going to be special. You know what I mean? Like, they've spent the second half of the year, once Kristaps went down, tanking. Now, this tanking has led them to the 9th pick in the draft. 9. This is not good. This is not good. Like I said, the Knicks are my second team, not even my first team. My Lakers are doing all right. We're picking in the 20s. But we have a bright future. You know, we're going to sign LeBron. We're going to get Paul George. We're going to get Boogie Cousins. We're going to get everyone because we're the Lakers. But the Knicks just continually find ways to suck. And it really is heartbreaking because I genuinely love the Knicks as one of those sort of goodwill stories, you know, in the NBA, because I grew up watching like a lot of the old basketball tapes and stuff, and I was always drawn into the Knicks from the 90s teams that had Patrick Ewing and Charles Oakley and that sort of stuff, Anthony Mason, John Starks, because I loved the way they went about it with the Bulls. They were the closest thing that had a chance to beating Michael Jordan at the time, so I was always riding on them. As we established already, I'm not a huge Jordan fan. But the one that really won me over on one of my old tapes, it went back to the team in the 70s that had won the title, the Walt Frazier, Walt Frazier and Willis Reed team, Dave DeBusschere and all those sort of guys. That's the team that really won me over. You know, and like it was one of those. You know, I love the stories in sports. You know, and I always remember the quote from Willis Reed. You know, when he'd done his ankle and he had to come out and play on pretty much on one leg. And he only played about 5 minutes, but it was just the emotional lift of having their big center coming into combat, you know, who was at the time probably one of the best players of all time in Wilt Chamberlain. And Willis Reed wasn't the biggest guy. He was like 6'10", you know, but real broad shoulders. You know, he was just a tough guy, and he just sort of lifted the team. And he said, I can't even remember off the top of my head. It's, you know, I was the right time, the right place, not quite the condition I wanted to be in, but I was going to make that game. And he limps out there and he hits 2 baskets. That's it. 2 shots from the top of the key. But that just sparked them. That drove them through. You know, in the Lake, I mean, he beat my Lakers team, which is obviously before my time. But, you know, anytime I see the Lakers lose, it hurts. But, you know, and I never wanted to see the Lakers lose to the Celtics. But that one there, like I said, the Lakers were the superstar team. We had Elgin Baylor, had Jerry West, had Wilt Chamberlain, had all the big name players. But it was this team that played as a team that won that series, and that's what I said. That's what I get out of sports. I love a good team. I love getting a collection of people coming together for a common goal. I don't like I'm the best, just ride my coattails. I like you and you and you and you, and we'll all play to your strengths. You know, we'll hide each other's weaknesses. That's the beauty of sports, and it's the backstories like that really, really sort of drag me, and everyone always wonders why I am so obsessed with sports, but it's just there's so much to enjoy. You know, and it's never just the action on the court or on the field. That's rarely what kind of excites me. It's always the backstories, the finding out the information behind, what went into these, awesome performances, that sort of thing. So that's going to be the moral of today's show, is just enjoying what leads in. It's without sounding too corny, it's trusting the process. It's falling in love with the process. It's not just the results. So that's why I've never really loved the team that was the best, that won the most, because it's a results-based, feeling and it's results-based sort of support for a team. Like, that's why, let's say, tap into why. Get into the why you love the team. I love the team that shows a bit of heart. I love the team that shows a bit of grit. If you just like the team because they win, that's nothing. And if you just support a player because he wins, it's like, well, you're only ever getting one side of the story there. You know what I mean? Like, if you're constantly just supporting teams that win and supporting players that win and just jumping ship, you're never getting both sides out of life. You're never getting the yin and the yang. You're never getting the sweet and the sour. If you're just always trying to see good times, then you're probably masking your own bad times. Now, this is getting pretty deep for a sports podcast, B. I know this. But it's just one of those things. Like, you'll never really enjoy the great unless you've been through the shit. And all I can say is, in the year 2020, when Carlton finally raised the premiership flag for the first time in 25 years, mate, I tell you what, I'm going to enjoy some great then. So we're going to make Carlton great again. That's going to be this week's show. It's only a short one. I'm sorry, guys. And it was a lot of me talking fast. I've just had a coffee. Just went and saw the boys at Larry and Lad. So I recommend you get in there, get yourself a batch brew, and then just listen to this thing really open up. But that's going to be us for this week, guys. I'll put up the... I do have to throw it in there. I do owe a video of me doing 5 burpees for Steve's Crows beating my Blues. But I'm happy to do that now because, let's be honest, Carlton wins and I'm a happy man. So that's going to be us this week. We'll speak to you next week. Peace.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.